Imagine living in a world full of books, stories everywhere, ideas everywhere, knowledge waiting on every shelf. But every story is locked, every page is closed. Every sentence belongs to someone else, not because you are not intelligent, not because you refuse to learn, not because your mind is empty, but because you cannot see. A book can sit right in front of you. You can touch its cover. You can feel the edge of its pages. You can smell the paper, the ink, the dust, the quiet life inside it. But the words do not come to you. They stay behind the page. They stay behind the eyes of other people. And unless someone reads them aloud, the book remains silent. That is the prison at the center of this story. Not a prison made of stone, not a prison with iron bars, a prison made of closed pages, a prison built from a terrible truth. The world had filled itself with books, but those books had not been made for a child like him. Welcome back to English Mindwave. His name was Louis Braille, and long before his name became connected to reading, learning, and dignity, he was simply a blind boy standing outside the world of books. The question is not only how he created a system of reading. The deeper question is this: how does a child open a door that the world never built for him? Louis grew up in a small village in France, in a house shaped by work, sound, and touch. His father worked with leather. The workshop was not a place of grand ideas or famous books. It was a place of tools, hands, patience, and skill. To adults, the tools on the table were ordinary things. To a curious child, they were mysteries. A tool could cut. A tool could shape. A tool could turn a rough piece of leather into something useful. Louis watched, listened, reached, and wondered. He was the kind of child who wanted to understand the world by moving toward it, not away from it. That curiosity was not a weakness. It was the beginning of his mind. But one day, curiosity came too close to danger. A small hand reached for a sharp tool. One mistake lasted only a moment, but some moments do not end when they pass. They travel forward. They change the shape of every day that comes after. The injury damaged one eye. Then infection spread. Slowly, the light that had once belonged to Louis began to leave him. The world did not vanish all at once. It withdrew. Faces became harder to find. Shapes lost their edges. The familiar village became sound, memory, texture, and shadow. Then even the shadows faded. Louis became blind. But this is where the story must be understood clearly. Louis did not lose books simply because he became blind. He lost books because books were never designed for people like him. That is, the deeper wound. The accident did not take away his mind. It did not take away his hunger to learn. It did not take away his imagination, his memory, or his need to understand the world, but it took away the doorway other children used every day without noticing. Other children could look at a page and enter. Louis could place his hands on the same page and remain outside. He learned to listen more carefully. He learned the language of footsteps, voices, walls, tables, paths, and familiar rooms. The world still spoke to him, but it spoke differently now. A voice could guide him. A hand could help him. A memory could lead him. But help is not the same as freedom. Listening is not the same as reading. Having someone else open a book for you is not the same as holding the key yourself. Somewhere inside the young boy, the hunger to learn did not fade with the light. It grew stronger, and that hunger eventually carried him away from his village toward Paris, toward a place that sounded like an answer. There was a school for blind children. To many people, this was already a miracle. A school meant that blindness did not have to close every path. It meant teachers, lessons, classmates. A place where children without sight were not treated as empty, useless, or forgotten. For Louis, it must have felt as if he had finally reached the world of books. At last. There was a door, but when he arrived, he discovered something painful. The door was only half open. The school had books for blind students, but those books were difficult, slow, and heavy. They used raised letters shaped like the printed alphabet. A student could feel the large outline of a letter and try to follow it with the fingers. It was a real effort. For its time, it showed care. Someone had tried to bring reading closer to children like Louis, but close was not enough. The raised letters took up so much space that books became enormous. They were expensive to make, hard to carry, slow to read, and writing with them was even more difficult. Louis was closer to books than he had ever been, but he was still standing outside them. That is what made the pain sharper. If there had been no school, no books, no attempt, perhaps the distance would have seemed ordinary. But now the world of reading was right there, almost within reach. He could touch the shape of learning, but he still could not move through it freely. That kind of almost can be cruel. Almost able to read, almost able to write, almost inside, but not free. Louis did not want knowledge only when someone else had time to give it to him. He did not want every lesson to depend on another person's voice. He did not want to be grateful for a door that opened only a little. He wanted to read alone, to return to a sentence, to write his own thoughts, to study in silence, to make mistakes privately, to enter a book without asking permission. And this is where his struggle becomes more powerful. Louis was not fighting one cruel enemy. He was fighting a quiet assumption that this was enough access, enough reading, enough writing, enough freedom, enough for a blind child. But Louis's mind refused that small word. Enough was not enough if a child could not easily write what he thought. Enough was not enough if a book was so heavy and rare that reading remained a privilege. Enough was not enough if the page still belonged more to other people than to him. Then a strange idea entered the school. It did not come from a children's story. It did not come from a gentle teacher sitting beside a fireplace. It came from a military experiment known as night writing. The idea had been made for soldiers who needed to read messages in the dark, without speaking and without lighting a lamp. Raised marks could be felt by the fingers. A message could be read without the eyes. For many people, it was just a rough system, too complicated, too large, not truly practical. But Louis noticed something others might have missed. This idea did not ask the eye to do what it could no longer do. It asked the finger to do what the finger could do, and in that difference, Louis felt the first shape of a key, not a finished key, not a perfect answer, just a possibility. But sometimes possibility is enough to keep a life moving. Louis began to work quietly. There was no dramatic announcement, no crowd gathering around him, no sound of history entering the room. Only a young blind student with paper, tools, patience, and a problem that would not leave him alone. The old raised letters had tried to copy the world of sight. Louis began to imagine something different. What if blind readers did not need letters that looked like printed letters? What if they needed signs made for touch? What if language could become small enough to fit beneath a fingertip? He tested patterns. A dot here, a dot there, a different position, a different arrangement. Again and again, he searched for something quick enough to read, simple enough to remember, and flexible enough to carry letters, words, music, ideas, and private thoughts. This mattered deeply because reading allows a person to receive the world, but writing allows a person to answer it. And Louis did not only want blind students to receive knowledge. He wanted them to speak back, to write, to think on paper, to leave their own minds behind in a form they could return to. Slowly, the symbol at the center of his life began to change. For years, the book had been a locked door. Now, beneath his fingers, the key was taking shape. The key was not made of metal. It was made of dots. That is the quiet beauty of this moment. The answer did not look powerful from the outside. It was not a machine. It was not a palace. It was not a law, a battle, or a throne. It was almost unbelievably small, a few raised points arranged with care. But sometimes the smallest design carries the largest freedom. With those dots, a letter could rise from the page, a word could meet the hand, a thought could move from one person to another without needing sight, sound, or permission. The page no longer had to wait for eyes. It could speak through touch. Louis was still young, but he had understood something many older people had not fully seen. Blindness was not the absence of intelligence. Blindness was not the absence of desire. Blindness was not the absence of a future. The problem was that the world had built too many of its doors for only one kind of body. Louis did not ask the blind reader to become more like a sighted reader. He asked language to become more human. He asked the page to meet the person who needed it. Still, even a good key does not open every door at once. Real change often moves slowly. Some people were cautious. Some systems were slow. Some habits were heavy. The world does not always recognize a gift the moment it appears. Louis did not live a long life filled with instant celebration. That is one of the quiet sorrows of his story. He gave the world a doorway he would not live to see fully opened. But the dots remained. Students used them. Teachers slowly saw their power. More readers touched them and understood. The key moved from hand to hand, and the doors began to open, not with noise, not all at once, but page by page, life by life. Somewhere a blind child could place a finger on a page and find a sentence waiting there. No one had to read it aloud first. No one had to stand beside the child and unlock the words. The page opened by itself. A student could study alone. A musician could read notes through touch. A writer could put thoughts on a page and return to them later. A person who had once been expected only to listen could now read, write, remember, question, and answer. This was not only an invention. It was dignity. It was privacy. It was independence. It was the right to meet knowledge directly. And that is why Louis Braille's story is larger than the system that carries his name. He changed the meaning of a page. He changed what a book could be. For a child without sight, a book no longer had to be a silent object in someone else's world. It could become personal, intimate, alive beneath the hand. Return now to the first image. A child sits before a book. The room is quiet. There is no one reading aloud, no one explaining every word, no one unlocking the story from the outside. The child places a finger on the page. Small raised dots wait there. The finger moves. A letter appears, then a word, then a sentence, then a world. Somewhere today, this is still happening. A child who cannot see enters a book. Not because the book was opened by someone else. Not because another person became the doorway. But because a blind boy, long ago, refused to stay outside. That is the deepest lesson Louis Braille leaves behind. Sometimes the world calls something impossible because it has only imagined one way in, one kind of reader, one kind of body, one kind of door. But human dignity begins when someone asks for another way. Louis Braille was the blind boy locked out of every book. He knew the silence of a page that would not answer him. He knew what it meant to stand close to knowledge and still be outside. So he made a key small enough to rest beneath a fingertip and powerful enough to open millions of doors. And every time a hand moves across those quiet dots, the door opens again. Thank you for listening to this story on English Mindwave. If this story touched your heart, please subscribe to the channel and support English Mindwave so we can continue creating more meaningful stories like this in the future.